Everybody's still downstairs visiting. So I guess it's me. Hi, everybody. My name is David Strait. WWDD. Come on, that was kind of funny, wasn't it? What would David do? I just pulled another WWDD out. It gets a laugh every time I say it, David. Come on. Is this it? Any more downstairs? All right. Harmons are down there? Okay. We can leave the girls down there. Okay, so here's once we get our little conversations kind of dwindled out, when that happens. Cha 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 cha. If you don't be quiet, I'll tell a bad joke. Do you know about the dyslexic, agnostic, insomniac? Y'all know what that means, right? The dyslexic, agnostic, insomniac. He stayed awake all night and wondered if there really was a dog. You got to think about that one. Yeah, dyslexic means you get things backwards. Agnostic, you don't really know if there's a God. Insomniac means you can't sleep. He stayed up all night. I'm sorry, if you have to explain your jokes, it's not that good. Okay. All right, so anyway, I wanted to let you guys know the good news. The good news is we pulled the 2 offerings, and we came $75 over the expense of this meeting. So, yep. So I'm very happy for that. The bad news is I don't have enough money to bring Carrie in by myself, so we're probably going to have to send you emails, and we're going to have to do the same thing we did this. I'm very thankful in this particular gathering. If it wasn't, I will just be honest with you, I got some sponsors ahead of time. I kind of figured on a first-time event and what have you, people real tight with their funds, not really seeing the value of it. We actually, if you take the size of our group and the expense of the meeting and what we pulled in, just so you know, they evened up. We came $75 over what it cost to have the meeting. What that? Yeah, I had to get you out here first. But anyway, now we know the value of what we're doing, and we bring Carrie in, who's another very heavy hitter. We're just going to have to do something a little bit different. I'm sure you understand that, because I mean, I'm just one guy. Unless you guys want to go working with me, we can bang some nails or whatever and do that. Was no problem. But it came up to about $26 a person is what it actually, when it evened out, averaged. We actually felt this particular meeting $26 a person for bringing out and having this event, which is, that's between $10 and $650. I guess it is, but not enough to bring Carrie in here. So that being said, we're going to pull Carrie in here, and then if anybody has a hard time and can't afford, when we do the Carrie thing, I think we're going to have some kind of a fee. We'll figure it out. I was talking to David. He does a lot of these people's, and I mean, he experiences a lot. If we get 50, it'll be this much. If we get 75, it'll be this much, that kind of a thing, and we'll just make it reasonable. This is not a for-profit event. This is, the House of Prayer is not a for-profit.
Put it this way, if every one of you invited one more, you just cut how much it would cost you in half.
Y'all can give $13. Yeah, right. So that way we can be we can actually have seed money for the next speaker and the next event and what have you. It. What are you pointing at? Yes.
He's going to get one ahead.
Right.
Keep this out, so you guys can keep
I don't know if anyone else has done Carrie's process. I have, and I will tell you, if you follow this thing, in 3 weeks you'll have a letter back from the United States. Okay, if you follow his instructions, in 3 weeks you'll have back a letter from United States Tax Court where the respondent to the document is the Commissioner of the IRS asking the tax court judge to dismiss your case for lack of jurisdiction. Now, anybody with a tax problem, tell them this is a good, simple, easy way. He doesn't charge anything to do it. And I'll guarantee you that that document where the head of the tax court and the Commissioner of the IRS says we don't have jurisdiction, that destroys them completely.
I don't want to get too ahead of the game, but we actually know people that have followed through with this and saved quite a bundle that was coming. They were being attempted to be taken away. So I've seen that certified letter from the United States Tax Court where they admitted there was no jurisdiction because they did not send out the required notice of deficiency, the required notice of determination, which was required prior to any kind of attack on the quote-unquote taxpayer. That being said, we're here to hear about what David has to say, and I don't know, David, do you want to work on the other things on our list? Did you have a plan? Are we going to do question and answers? Because we've got quite a bit on that list that we hadn't actually attacked. You want me, I'll pull the list. I'll pull the list out. We can go through the list. Yeah.
Can you address employer-employee rights or issues?
Don't.
Companies that do employing and or employees who work for companies?
God, I could say all kinds of things about that.
Or how about a specific one that I heard on the radio today?
First of all, most employers are not a waffle withholding agent. Did you know that? They're not certified by the IRS to be a withholding agent. Yet they're doing it anyway. And they're forwarded the information to the IRS. By breaking the law, they're doing it for free because accountants, bean counters, will not honor the law. And they do not go into any gray areas, as they call it, which means they're chicken crap of the IRS. The IRS has frightened tax preparers and accountants so badly, somehow, in their training, that they absolutely bend over. There's no one that can get an owner of a company in trouble more than an attorney and an accountant and a tax preparer. That's it. The three people I don't ever want to hire or do business with. When I own my own business, I'm going to do my own books. Because accountants got me in trouble more times than not. Okay? Tax preparers got me in trouble more times than not. Lawyers got me in trouble more times than not. You understand what I just said, right? What does everybody that starts a business do? They run out and they hire three people. An attorney, a tax preparer, and an accountant. Absolute dumbest thing an employer could ever do. Somebody who put his own money into opening a business, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases to operate a business that he thought he was going to make a profit off of, and he hired a lawyer, an accountant, and a tax preparer. And those three cost him more money than the profit he made. The only one that makes money in a business is the employee and the lawyer, the tax preparer, and the accountant. Business owner doesn't make much at all because there's nothing left by the time they're done with it. I learned that lesson and I actually started to make some money. Fire them. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. See, read Title 26 of the IRS Code, the United States Code. Title 26 is the IRS Code. And what does it say? No part of this title, not its headers, nor its footnotes, nor its definitions, nor its body, shall be construed as law. That's codified. Okay? USC Title 26. Title 26, the entire section of Title 26 of the United States Code is the IRS Code, and it's written in there. First thing, and all the way throughout, you will see it over and over and over again.
You said twice that the Title 26 is the IRS code. Is it not the Internal Revenue Code? And what's the difference if you say
Who cares at this point? It's all going to go away. All right, but right now you're kind of worried about it. So read the I've been trying to tell people over and over and over again, read the United States Code. The United States Code was put there for one reason only. For us to use against them. See, if you actually read the IRS Code, I remember when I read it, it was 73 volumes. I think it's up to like 75 or 6 now. Volumes of code. Books. Volumes. Right? Like an encyclopedia set of a whole bunch of books. Okay?
That's what you're telling us to read, Cindy?
No. I've already told you, do not get involved in all this stuff. To keep it simple and go out and teach it and wake up the masses, and we will all be better off.
Well, what should we read?
Because a lot of this is going to go away. Quit listening to a whole bunch of millions of gurus. None of that matters. They're all good intended people and are all mostly right in some form or another. I rank everybody by percentages. They're a 70%er, they're an 80%er, they're a 90%er. Nobody's 100% except Jesus Christ. I'm not 100%, not even close. I'm the first to admit it. I make mistakes. I'm a man, I'm human. We all do. Okay? But a lot of this stuff is being handled on a much grander scale right now. What we need the people to do is to protest and to rebel and to stand up and support us and say, hey, wait a minute, what about my rights? To repudiate, what would happen if the Secretary of State of the United States next month got 1 million affidavits of repudiation of citizenship? They would freak out overnight. I mean, totally lose their cool. They would freak out. Let's make it happen. Wouldn't that be fun?
What about the census? Can we do that during the census?
Sure.
What would be the best way to answer those questions?
No, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a we the people. I'm an Arkansan. I'm here as one who created government, not one created by government.
Because they have to do the census.
Start revoking. How many are registered to vote?
I rescinded mine for fraud.
It is.
It is fraud.
But here's the issue. As a we the people, you're an elector. So did you send in your notice of electoral status to the Secretary of State? And then you get it certified, and then you walk into the voter booth with your letter. You have to physically go in now. And see, in Oregon, they do ballots by mail. I don't get mine in the mail anymore because I'm not a registered voter. But I am an elector. I have electoral status. And I walk in and I cast my electoral ballot at the voting booth.
That matters, right? I mean, they count votes, right?
More than they count the other ones. That's right. That's right. See, this lady knows what she's talking about.
I said the other is 3% of the vote. When all of you guys go out and vote as U.S. citizens, your only counts as 3% of the vote. The real vote is the electoral.
See, that's why I said we the people control government. I'm a we the people.
David, can you tell people how to do that?
Yeah,
Become an electoral.
yeah. You declare it. You turn in your voter's registration card for fraud. He just said that. He did it.
Automatically send you
No. Nothing automatically does anything, ever. Never, never, never does anything automatically happen. Not in this nation. You file with the Secretary of State of your state as a we the people. You've declared your status. You send in your repudiation of citizenship, declared that you're a state national under Title 8, Section 1101A21, and you send an affidavit of electoral status or declaration of electoral status to your Secretary of State, and you get it certified, and you get that letter back. Take it into their office. I hand carried mine. Said, here, I'm not leaving until you stamp it. She says, well, we got to bound it. We got to do this. I said, can I trust you with it? And she said, okay. And I said, all right, just mail it to me. Here's my address, care of, rural route, 61037 Groff Road, Bend, Oregon, zip exempt. Mail it back to me, please.
Do you have a sample of that we can copy?
Oh, yeah, probably. 350,000 plus documents on my computer. I'll find the time someday to send it to you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we can get you stuff. Text me, say, ask, pretty please. I'll do it. I promise. I'll fall for you and do it every time. But it's, I can't necessarily do it that very minute.
We're keeping the web page open for all that information so you don't get 50 requests. So we just do one place and everyone go there and get the deposits.
So anyway, yeah, you declare your electoral status as a we the people.
Does it need to be notarized?
Well, I did with the proper notary public and the
Okay, so it's
publicly published. It became a court of record before it was presented to the Secretary of State.
initially you called two different things. So is it notary public?
Yes, I did. I called them different things. There's two of everything.
So what do we get notarized by?
Notary Republic.
Thank you.
Okay. In the Arkansas state, in the Washington County, not in the state of Arkansas, and not in the county of Washington. See, there's two of everything. There's a corporate government and there's a de jure government. They both exist side by side. The words you use determines the juris under which you stand. That's LAW is law, Genesis 1:26 through 28. You got to get these basics down because it applies in every situation, as I'm showing you right now. There are two counties, there's two states, there's two federal governments, there's two this, there's two that, there's two of you. There's two of everything. You got to know which one to be in by saying the right diction. Words. Diction is words. You look words up in a dictionary. The words you use determines the juris under which you stand. You get that? It's very, very, very important. If you mess up and you use the wrong words, you're going to step in a bear trap and throw yourself into their jurisdiction, and they'll hang you with it.
What country? You said, what's the proper word for the country?
United States of America, or there's the United States Corporation. Take your pick of which one you want to be in. You have the right of self-determination. Right? There's Arkansas State, and there's the state of Arkansas. One's a corporation, and one's a de jure government, a geographical location on a map. And the other is a corporation with a Dun & Bradstreet number, Amanda.com report saying it's a private for-profit entity registered in the District of Columbia at what address? 444 what? There you go. How come it's not in Arkansas?
The whole state's built.
You see what I mean? It's all corporations. Everything. A private for-profit governmental services corporation. Would you like to contract with your services, ma'am? You see what I'm saying? Depends on which jurisdiction you want to be in. We're under contract law, or we're under trust law, or we're under equity law, property and rights. Equity, property, and rights go together. Trust or contract, land, air, and water. LAW is law. See, it's very easy to understand when you go back to the very, very basics. There's no teacher that can teach a student mathematics if he starts with algebra. He's got to start with 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 times 1 is 1. And he's got to start with the basics. Once he establishes the basics, then we can work our way up to more complicated things. But in the law, all you guys want to jump into affidavits and processes and rules of civil and criminal procedure, and you want to jump into constitutional law, and you want to jump into all these kind of things, and you haven't even learned what What is the law? Where does its origins come from? How did we arrive at this thing called law, where a small group of men could put something down on a piece of paper and hold me, a man, accountable? Till you can answer that question like that, you ain't ready for 1 times 1 yet, because you haven't done 1 plus 1s yet. You see what I'm saying? I don't know any other way to explain it plainly, is we have to constantly go back to the basics. If we don't know what the word jurisdiction, I asked a judge who was on the bench 43 years. This guy should have retired a long time ago. I said, Judge, what does the word jurisdiction mean? And he stammers around and he says, well, that's what gives me the authority to act. No, I asked what the word jurisdiction means. Let's break it in half. What does juris mean, Judge? Well, that's law. I said, no, it's right law. Which is the right law? That's the juris. I said, what does the word diction mean? He goes, well, that's language. I said, no, it's words. 43 years on the bench, and I'm correcting him on 1 word. What are we going to do with the rest of the case? I just filed 15,369 words on a document. We're working on the first one. You see what I'm saying? Compartmentalized legal idiots. They're so used to running right over the top of everyone they've been in contact with. In his case, the last 43 years. And we watched him do it to about 10 people before it was our turn. And then I stood up. End of that story. Okay? I'm not trying to brag. It's only this much more knowledge than he had that makes a difference. I don't need this much more. I need this much more. One tiny little minuscule of the basics of law that he wasn't taught in law school. He was taught policy and procedures of the court. How to, language, how to be a good writer. Software, he probably wasn't even taught software. That was before they had computers, 43 years ago. So when he graduated, yeah, get that one, all right? He's got a typist back there typing his stuff up. He probably can't even use a smartphone. Now, I'm not trying to belittle him, but I'm belittling him, all right? So what I'm trying to say is, if you go to 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 times 1 is, okay, thank you. You're going to win every time. It's not that hard. Status, standing, jurisdiction has to be established. Once you've established status, standing, jurisdiction, it's, Judge, you mind if I ask a question? I'm just a dumb old farm boy from a mill town. What is the law? Where does its origins come from? How did we arrive at this thing called law, where a small group of men could put something down on paper and hold me, a man, accountable? That opens the door. You understand you've got to get them to answer a question. Now you can talk. Otherwise, they're going to say, shut up and sit down. You can't speak. They'll run over you from that point on. But if you ask a question, right? If you say, Judge, you mind if I ask a question? You see how nice I was just then? Judge, you mind if I ask a question? And I ask a question that opens a door that he's going to poorly answer because he doesn't know the basics. Never was taught. None of them were. Over 300 times I've said this in court. Why? Because they answer something stupid and lame. And then it's my opportunity to say, wait a minute. My understanding is in Genesis 1:26 through 28, God gave me, mankind, dominion over the land, air, and the water. And this is law. That the land is common law. Common to all mankind is property, equity, and rights. The air is ecclesiastical or canon law. It's trust law. And the water is admiralty or commerce, which is contract law. So which is it that we're operating in? because I thought I heard the prosecutor misuse the word term jurisdiction a minute ago, and he said something like, it's in the county's jurisdiction, Your Honor. We have subject matter jurisdiction, Your Honor. And I said, wait a minute. Does it matter if you're in the city, the county, the state, or the federal government, this agency or that agency? Aren't you guys all operating in the same jurisdiction? Admiralty, commerce, or contract? Judge? Get him to answer. You shut up. And he'll say, yeah, contract law. Okay, well, that's simple. I can understand that. Bring forth the contract, please. Mr. Prosecutor, do we have a contract? Does it meet all 8 elements of the contract? Is there a meeting of the minds? Is there full and honest disclosure? Is there terms and conditions? Is there consideration? Is there 2 wedding signatures? Right? Is there privity of contract? Well, if not, this case is hereby dismissed with prejudice. We're out of here. Thank you, Your Honor. Most court cases can happen that quick. Most. Now, some of them are a lot more complicated. Okay? So, I apologize that I'm hard to hear. I really am. I've had a lot of things happen to my voice, and my voice does not carry very far. On my property where my house is dead center, and it's 600 feet to the back fence, my wife could stand on the deck and whisper, and I can hear her when I'm at the back fence. I scream back at her, and she can't hear what I'm saying. I scream as loud as I can. She has twice as good a hearing as I do. It's just because my voice doesn't get there. Just doesn't get there. Hers, whew. On a clear night, I could hear her up on top of the mountain. Yeah, her voice, she's not loud, but her voice carries a long ways. It's like she's got a directional, bullhorn. Okay, so I apologize for that. It's probably not going to be good on the videos. I'm trying, but it's not. So, any other questions? Who was first? I saw both your hands at the same time.
Can you write on your board up there the 3 kinds of law and then put underneath them the things that apply, like your contract law, your trust law, and then write land?
That's all right. For you, anything. You want all the information in one day, right? Yes. Land, air, water. Land, air, water. Common. Common law. Ecclesiastical. You want me to spell that? Water, admiralty. This is property, equity, rights. That's why they call it property rights. Ecclesiastical is trust. Admiralty or commerce is contract. That's it, folks. 1, 2, 3 jurisdictions. Because this means right law. Which one of those is right law? And this means words. The words you use determines the right law under which you stand. could be the state of Arkansas or Arkansas. Could be the county of Washington or Washington County. It could be person or people. It could be travel or drive or operate a motor vehicle. It could be travel in an automobile. It could be highways or roadways. Okay? Many, many words, just by changing the word, changes the jurisdiction under which you're operating or which you stand. When you're talking about trust law, you're talking about trustees and beneficiaries and that kind of stuff. When you're talking about contracts, what's that? Okay. When you're talking about contracts, what are you talking about? Two parties making an agreement based on 8 elements. That's it. It's that simple. When you're talking about property and equity or rights, you're talking about deeds, grants, heirs, patents. You're talking about things you have ownership in or stewardship of. You understand that? We're supposed to be good stewards of our lands. Okay? So, a steward, a trustee, and a party. Are you a party to a contract? No, I'm not a party to anything. We're talking about a trust. I'm a beneficiary. See? I just changed my juris by using different diction. Get that in your brain engraved permanently, right there.
All right, this is kind of an odd question because it actually brings some personal experience into the equation. You mentioned that these public servants are compartmentalized idiots. So we're all that way. Okay, so even if we have our paperwork spot on, we can spend the rest of this year from now until January or whatever figuring out how to work these paperworks up and get perfect affidavits, get all our words right and all that. The compartmental idiots not going to understand it anyway and are going to boo-hoo it. So it seems to me like the problem is not being right, the problem is enforcement. This is actually a statement in question. Okay, so we're doing this. So this is our education process. But in the meanwhile, we have a lot of these situations are children's rights and things of that nature where the every day without the child is heartache and boom, like you talked about. So I guess what we're trying to say is a little more understanding of how to enforce things and actually, you know, where someone that doesn't have to understand state and county and getting to the heart of the matter. Here, let you answer with the microphone.
You do have to understand this in order to do everything else. This is the 1+1. If you don't understand this, you can't properly put it down on paper and make it your court of record and properly serve it and properly publish it so it's a court of record, so it bears weight. If it does not bear weight, if your process doesn't bear weight, because you haven't properly known this to start, nothing's going to work for you. You're going to beat your head against the wall. You might as well have a sign over there that says, bang head here. And you'll be much more effective at denting the wall than you are going to be in the court.
So somebody's actually going to listen to this somewhere.
Don't think for 1 minute attorneys don't study language. Didn't I say that? You went to the law school, went to the classes, what do they learn? They don't learn the law. They learn language. They call it legalese. They know how to word things in sneaky and mysterious ways. This is you learning how to word things so that you are operating in the proper jurisdiction. The problem is they're going to tell you this word means That's what gives us the authority to make us your slave master. Okay? That's what they're going to say the word jurisdiction means. The word jurisdiction is what gives us the authority to rule over you, to crack that whip. And you're going to say, wait a minute. Juris means right law, and diction means words. So if I use the right words, and I understand the words you're using, won't you agree that we're in contract law together? That's what you operate in. If we can agree, because of the basics, that you're operating in contract law, and you're trying to hold me to some type of known or unknown contract, doesn't matter. I'm telling you, there's 8 elements to a contract or it's fraud. We're not operating here in this court of law on presumption, assumption, tacit agreement on hearsay, because I'm not going down that path. I'm not going to be railroaded. What was the legal definition of railroading? To lead somebody down a narrow path or rail to a predetermined outcome or conclusion. Hey, this train don't run on that track. So if you want me in here negotiating with you, you're going to admit that we're under contract law, and then I'm going to tell you to bring forth the contract. And if it doesn't meet all 8 elements of the contract, we're done. I just told you how to solve almost every case in 5 minutes. Now, when it comes to your kids, you're going to have to do something a little different. What did I say here? Very first thing I said, what is the law? Where did its origins come from? Let's stop that second part of that sentence. Where did its origins come from? Okay, if we're dealing with CPS, what law did we, the people, lay down that gave them the authority to even do anything? There's only 2, Title IV and ASFA. What's it say in the law? That they cannot take your children without your consent unless you've been through proper due process of law and proper investigation, been found guilty and convicted of a felony. Then they must look for a family member, and only then, if none of them stand up, can they go to a foster home. So I just gave you the key, again, right off the beginning, that you have to go to the origin, the very beginning of everything. Everything. If it's a property foreclosure, what laid down the law that formulated this property in the first place? It was a land patent by the United States Land Office. The government turned over. As long as that guy paid his fee to the land office and that land patent was issued and he did improvements on the property for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years or whatever it says, which I don't even care what it says. As long as he did that, because it did exist at one time, now it can only be transferred to his heirs, successors, or assigns by grant deed. All other types of deeds are abstracts of title. So you see, the words we use determines the jurisdiction we're in, and if you go back to the very, very, very basics, 1 + 1 is 2 every time, you'll solve all these types of cases quickly and easily right off the bat. Okay? I don't know if I'm not saying this clear enough, but it's very, 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 very important. You will never be a good mathematician if you don't know what 1 + 1 is. And you'll never be a good scientist if you don't know the periodic table of the elements. And you'll never be a good preacher if you haven't read the Bible and know the basic principles. And you're never going to be a good carpenter if you don't know how to swing a hammer and what a nail is. Okay? And you're never going to be successful in the law until you know what the law is and what the word jurisdiction is, and until you know who you are and who you're dealing with. Status, standing, and jurisdiction is everything in the law. They're going to presume your status. They're going to presume your standing. They're going to assume you committed a crime. They're going to use tacit agreement to get you to consent to it. And then they're going to use hearsay to put you in jail up the creek without a paddle. And they're going to lead you down that path. Presumption, assumption, tacit agreement, hearsay spells path to a predetermined or outcome or conclusion so that they can make a profit. It is that simple, folks. Every single case you have regarding anything you have, if that isn't deeply rooted in your brain to start with, you're going to lose your darn case except for maybe sheer luck and the grace of God and a strike of lightning. Okay? And other than that, where was the intent? Where was the first-hand witness? Where was the corroborating witness, Your Honor? You bring the facts to the table. You bring an affidavit of truth and a timeline. They're dealing with presumption, assumption, tacit agreement, and hearsay. No fact or truth shall be tried in court is what that adds up to. You see what I'm saying? Where is their first-hand evidence? Their first-hand witness? Their corroborating witness? Where was your intent to commit a crime? Have they proved it? The burden of proof's on them. Burden of proof's on them. Throw it at them. Throw it at them and put a brick in the bag. I'm telling you, this stuff is really simple. I'm surprised it takes these idiots 7 years of law school to not learn the law. But, of course, I went kindergarten through 12th grade, and I didn't know the law either. 13 years of government and education propaganda system, and I didn't learn real history. My dad once said, it isn't until you read the letters and journals of people who lived in the time, in the area of where an event took place, that you will ever learn the true facts of that event from those who experienced it. So I spent 2 years in National Archives reading letters and journals of people who lived during the time. And I learned the true Abraham Lincoln. I learned who he was, what he did, what he accomplished, how he destroyed us. Not 7 years ago, wearing a cute little beard and being about this tall, standing up on a stage in front of the whole school and the parents, saying, "Hold honest Abe." You see what I'm trying to say? When you read the letters and journals of people who lived during 1850 to 1860, well, he was running, even 1840 to 1860 when he was running for president all those times. Then do you realize who the man was? Nobody wanted the communist son of a buck for president. That's why he lost the first 5 times. Okay? He had already passed some communist laws in the state of Illinois. All right, enough of Lincoln. Oh, gosh. Red is blood. It's living. Purple is sovereign. Gold is also sovereign, by the way. Gold and a purple flag, gold fringed. Not the fringe around the outside, but a gold stripe around it is a sovereign flag. Flags are everything. Black is dead, and blue is contract. Blue pen is firmly in this jurisdiction. Go write a document in this jurisdiction and sign it with a blue ink and watch what happens. The judge will say, "Oh, that's just gibberish. I don't understand your document. We're throwing it out." Just because you were trying to combine jurisdictions. He ain't going to tell you the actual reason why. He'll make up some excuse. They don't want you to learn this stuff. But that's what he means.
David, can you talk about the law of the flag?
How many people know there's a civil flag of peace? That's only because you've been hanging around people like me, right? But if you were the general public out there walking down the street, would you know a civil flag of peace existed? Huh? Civil flag of peace, look at the Coast Guard flag. The Coast Guard flag is the civil flag of peace with the Coast Guard logo right in the middle of it. Why? Because they were originally a civil organization. Civil flag of peace threw above our commerce halls all across this country in the only 3 years that we have not been at war since 1776. There was 3 years we were at peace. The rest of the time we've been under declared war. And we've been under declared war constantly since 1861. We've been under martial rule. The United States Army is in charge of the Grand Republic of the United States. The President is its commander-in-chief. You think so? You think the Army's foreign? No, the corporation's foreign. The United States corporation is foreign.
The flag that they wear on their right shoulder today, the military, that's not a United States flag. I think it's what's called the United Nations Foreign Legion.
You're right. See, we did not win World War II. I don't care what anybody says. I know how hard our grandfathers fought. I'm not going to belittle them. They actually think we won the war by dropping a bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We didn't. Every country we were at war with, and every country that was one of our allies, were already United Nations countries, except us. And we spent so much on the war that our grandmothers and grandfathers were turning in their pots and pans to make bullets and tanks. This nation was bankrupt. They called on the people for supplies, raw materials. Okay? We doubled up on the war efforts. Ford, Chrysler, General Motors were building tanks and Jeeps. Okay? Everything we could do to support that war effort, we the people stepped up to the plate and we did it. Everyone. Citizens and people alike. Doesn't matter. We did it because we were patriotic and we loved this country. And we believed we were doing the right thing. See, the Pledge of Allegiance is a very powerful thing. It gives us hope and an oath. But everybody that puts their hand on their heart and swears a pledge of allegiance to that flag, and I'm not saying get on one knee like old Kaepernick or whatever his name is. But what I'm telling you is this. We need to know who we are pledging allegiance to. I don't mind doing it. I just want to know the meaning behind it. I want full and honest disclosure of the terms and conditions. Okay? I'm one of the most patriotic people out there. I'd die for all of you. But when I learned the difference, I learned I wasn't fighting for the United States of America. I was fighting for the United States corporation, who was being guided by a small group of greedy bankers to do ominous and odious work. Odious is a great word. It means repugnant, smelly work. And why do I say that? Don't for a minute think I'm not patriotic. I am. Okay? Why do I say that? Why does it hurt me to the core so badly? I'll tell you why. Because we were led down a path to a predetermined outcome or conclusion because we didn't know the full disclosure of the facts. Let me tell you something. If I was my grandfather that was living during 1908, 1933, during that era when the country was bankrupt and old Roosevelt was talking about the New Deal, and the bankers came and said, hey, we've got an idea. This country has gone bankrupt over and over and over again throughout history, and it has. And we think we have a way to fund government. And here it is. And they laid out the full conditions, terms and conditions of the facts. And they said, we're going to make you the co-trustees and the co-beneficiaries, and you guys, the only signatory officers, you have control over it. And that's how we're going to form this public charitable trust that I drew up on the board. And we're going to put you in a Sesta QV trust, and we're going to bond you and insure you. We'll pay the upfront money, buddy. You don't have to come up with anything. It's okay. But we're going to rely off your labor. And they tell us this. And let's just say they said something like this. While you're a minor, up to the age of 18, we're going to create this investment account. We're going to invest these funds that we invested on your behalf for the benefit of both of us. We're going to form a partnership deal, and we're going to form this investment, and we're going to sell these bonds, which will help us fund government forever in perpetuity. And here's how it's going to work. And they laid out the whole plan for us. And they said, once you reach 18, we'll start cutting you in on the deal. You'll share into 50% of the profits. And by the time, or let's just say they start at 20%. And then by the time you're 30 or something, they do 50%. As you get older, more and more higher percentage. Let's just say that's what they did. As my grandfather, with full and honest disclosure of the facts, and a promise and an oath that I could hold them accountable to, written in a code that I can use against them if they dishonor this contract, I would have said, heck yeah, let's go for it, guys. Don't make my mom sign as informant, though, and give me up. But let's go ahead and make it a partnership deal, a contract, instead of a fraudulent contract. Don't go through the process of creating an act of Congress to make foundling hospitals. Don't make mom sign as an informant. Don't do it while she's under duress. Give her 10, 15, 20 days, 30 days, 45, 100, I don't care. Just put it in the terms and conditions so that she can get home with her bouncing baby boy, me, and fill out the paperwork at her leisure and get it mailed in and get me registered and get me a certificate. And all's fine and dandy, and we've got a great contract. And I know when I reach the age of 25, I got $1,000 a month coming in. And when I'm 50, I got $10,000 a month coming in, or whatever it happens to be. We're just sharing the profits. Okay? The numbers can be fudged whatever the way it's supposed to be. That can be worked out. What would I have done? What would my grandfather have done? I've thought about this for many years. Yeah, we would have said yeah. All of us would have said yeah. Heck yeah, bring it on. You're going to put up the money. You're going to insure me. You're going to do all the work, the labor, manage the investment. You're going to use it as the full faith and credit of the United States government, and I'm going to share in the partnership. Heck yeah, I'll swear the oath. I'll even fight to protect and defend it. And you're going to share it with me. And you're going to give me a little control by making me the only signatory officer? Heck yeah, let's do this thing. I would have ran to the voting booth. Right? But what did they do? They did a whole bunch of acts of Congress leading up to it to put a system of fraud into place so that they could screw us out of it. Now I'm pissed. Now let's just dissolve the whole thing. The whole thing was fraud. Let's vitiate it from the beginning. Go bankrupt, please. I'd be more than happy to sell off some real estate like the White House to pay the debts back to the people. You see what I'm trying to say? And it's hard to say. It really is. It's hard to feel it that deep in your heart. But it's a God honest truth. They did it under false pretenses, and I can prove it. And you can prove it to yourself. I don't have to prove it to you. Go read the Acts of Congress between 1908 and 1935. You'll see how they set up this whole system of fraud. I'm pissed about it. And you should be too. No, we have to stand up and take our government back. What does it say in our Declaration? You know what it says. It says, if they don't do their job, we abolish them. Start over. Fire them. Impeach them. Whatever it takes. Arrest them. Put them in jail. They're committing crimes and felonies.
County by county. It's good leading for county by counties. Restoring the counties.
You can't.
It's a good lead.
No, because we're going to go above it.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for everything you've done. Secondly, I was raised in Louisiana, and we have the Napoleonic Code. How would that apply, or could this apply in the same manner? Around the corner from me.
So, what did Lafayette do when they said, hey, you're a pirate? But he said, I'm an honest pirate. I steal from the rich and I give to the poor. And the governor put out a reward for him, right? A bounty on his head. And what did he say? He says, you put out a $500 reward on my head, I'll put out a $5,000 one on yours. Because you're fleecing the poor. At least I'm an honest pirate. I fly the flag, I steal from the rich, I give it to the poor. And you're the governor of the state of Louisiana, and what did you do? You hid it. You created fraud, and you steal from the poor to make yourself rich. You put out a $5,000 bounty on, or a $500 bounty on my head, I'll put out a $5,000 bounty on yours. Now, who in that situation was right? And does it apply today? Absolutely. Well, I'll go pirates. He throws his hand up. Thank you. Letters of marque and reprisal. Okay? Just one more subject we could talk about for a day or two. I mean, we could go on for several weeks. You understand that, right? I haven't even scratched the surface. We don't need to. Go back to the basics. This has to be teachable. You can't go give somebody a college degree when they're still in kindergarten. You understand what I'm meaning? If you don't go back to the basics, there's no sense in talking about writs of mandamus and habeas corpuses and writs of certiorari. No reason to even talk about that stuff. If you don't know this. Who's teaching you this? Without a single person in the United States. It took me 30 years to figure it out, to get simple enough. I was a really complicated person for a while ago. And nobody was listening. And then one day something hit me and said, go back to the basics, David. Teach everybody the basics and they'll win every case. I want to make you winners, not losers. We can all go in and beat our heads against the wall and be as professional as we want, and even the best attorney wins 50% of the time. Oh gosh, no. We're going to put those on his website. We're going to put the 12 presumptions of court on his website. Let me tell you something I learned this year. I was creating documents and we were fighting in court in probably in a period of 2 or 3 months, 1,000 courtrooms across the country. How many attorneys has their documents in 1,000 courtrooms across the country in 3 months? There was a big attorney firm on national TV bragging about the New York City attorney firm bragging about the 9 cases they won in the last year. 9. We won in about 1,000 courts in a period of about 3 months, all across the country, using the stuff I teach in my documents. And what happened? I'm on an airplane ride to Zurich, banking headquarters of the world, to sign an agreement for foreign nations to create sovereignty and to try and back their money by gold. Been working on this project a year. And I'm riding on the airplane, and I'm surrounded by all these guys with really expensive suits, and I'm dressed like this. Really nice suits. And I was just listening to them, like even Minogue. It's kind of a cool thing to do once in a while. And I find out just by their conversations over about a 3 or 4 or 5 hour period, or somewhere over the thing, and I've learned that they were all international banking attorneys flying to Zurich to combat me. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut any longer. So I jumped into the conversation a little bit and I started talking about the basics of law. So you guys, I'm just a farm boy from a mill town. And I want to ask you a question since I can see you're all attorneys. What is the law? Ooh, I got loud. What is the law? Where does origins come from? How did we arrive at this thing called law where a small group of men can put something down on paper? Well, on and on and on. Okay, you get the drift. Tired of hearing it yet? Okay. I'm just saying, after about 30 minutes of me bending their ears sideways, one of them looks at me and says, "Who the heck are you?" I say, "Oh, my name's David Straight. Nice to meet you." Right? "Oh, you're the guy the Bar Association's going to shut down." And I said, "Really? How are they going to do that?" And this one guy says, "They're going to get you with syllogism." And the others looked at him like he just committed the worst sin on earth. Syllogism. You ever heard that word? I have studied this stuff for 30 years, and until July 1st, I had not heard that word in my lifetime. So I said, "Oh, they gave me a clue. What am I going to do now? I'm going to study what is syllogism," right? And I learned something about the word syllogism. It's a conclusion based upon 2 facts which share something in common, but may or may not be true. Oh, that's what they're going to get me on, huh? That's the definition of syllogism. So let me give you an example. All dogs are animals, and all dogs have 4 legs. Therefore, the conclusion is all animals have 4 legs. The problem with that is not all animals have 4 legs, right? So there's 12 presumptions of court. And if you don't rebut, revoke, repudiate, object to, how many times can you say the word object in how many different ways? Lots. If you don't object to these 12 presumptions of court, they can use any 2 of them to form a conclusion to run over the top of you and destroy you with it. And that's how they were going to get me, because my 99-page affidavit that I was filing in these court cases to expose the fraud and the corruption of everything only covered about 10 of them, maybe only 9. They gave me the secret. They're talking about it at the bar. They're publishing it in their ABA journal. Yeah. Syllogism. What a silly word. To form a conclusion from two things that have something in common with each other, which may or may not be facts. Yeah, I'll agree a dog has 4 legs. But when they arrived at the conclusion, they were wrong. And that's what they'll do with you. They'll arrive at a conclusion that throws you in jail when really you were an innocent person. Okay?
So as you're talking to them, besides syllogism, how do you basically convey that you're not practicing law? I mean, I know you're not representing anybody.
I don't practice law, I perfect it. Attorneys have to practice. They're actors. They got to keep practicing their lines over and over and over again. They're in the practice of law. I'm a law sayer. I laid the law down. They're acting outside their scope and authority. See, none of these guys can out-debate me. There's a reason for that. God's on my side. The devil's on theirs. They don't know what to say at the right time, at the right place. I don't either. But he does. And he just opens my mouth and shoves the words out of my brain. You see what I mean? Once you apply yourself, he opens the doors. When you have the right heart and the right intention and the right meaning, and you do it for the right reasons, start spending your own money to do it, and you know what will happen? You'll get so close to broke at the 11th hour and the 55th minute you think you're going to be destroyed. And at the 11th hour and the 57th minute, he's going to put some money in your account. And if you don't think that's true, I am here to tell you it is, over and over and over again. There's times my wife's been so darn worried, and I say, "Hon, don't worry about it. It'll come. If I keep doing the right thing, if I keep helping enough people, if I work my tail off and he knows it, it'll show up." I have faith because I know I'm doing what's right. That's all I got to focus on. I got to focus on what's right. I got to focus on the basics. I got to do it with the right heart, the right spirit, and he will keep me going somehow. I don't know how. There are times when I've had not a bale of hay on my property. Not a bale of hay. And I'm kicking what's little on the ground into the horses that night. And the next day I've got a check enough to buy a semi. And he always makes a way for it to happen. Always. So I'm telling you, don't be fearful of that. If you got the right heart, the right spirit, the right mind, you're doing the right thing, you're helping enough people. It just works. Just works. And I had spent about $1 million of my own money before I figured that out. I just kept spending money, and I just kept helping people, and I just kept helping people until I ran out of money. And then we only had so much coming in, and our bills were maybe that much more than what I had coming in. And you know what? All of a sudden, extra money started coming in the bank. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. You proved it to me. Slap me one more time, I'm okay. And I just went out and started helping more people. I've flown to other cities without a return ticket, knowing that God would make me get home. It's been that close several times. A couple times I've had to sleep in a rental car because I didn't have money for a hotel or a meal. I went 3 days without a meal once. And I kept doing it. I kept doing it. And that hasn't happened in a long time now. Because what happened? He knew that on September 23rd, 2017, it was all going to turn around. And good people like you would start waking up. And good people like you would think that my message was worth it. And you would help not only those that helped put on the meeting and get me there, but you would help me too. And you would make sure my expenses are covered, and that maybe I got enough hay to feed my horses or pay the farmer to feed them while I'm gone, my neighbor. See, I pay him $100 a day to come over and feed my horses every day I'm not home. And I was home 14 days last month, and I was gone 16 days last month. And I flew to 8 cities and 3 countries. Okay. So what I'm telling you is quit worrying about it. Stick with the basics. Go teach as many as you can. Shake them awake, slap them if you have to. Spank them on the butt if you gotta. But get them moving and off the couch. And get them all teaching and training the ones that you teach. Get those people to teach others. And let's blow this thing wide open. And next time I come, we might need a bigger building. Okay? Here, I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm not going to go far. All right, so the question I have to ask is, which is, you gave a tremendous offer here earlier, that when we find corrupt officials, which apparently may run into every now and then, right? Occasionally, that it's not necessary for everybody here to learn how to take them on their own anymore, because what we're supposed to do, this is what I heard, I mean, I think everyone else heard the same thing, they were supposed to prepare a brief or report and send it to you.
Put as much factual evidence in it as you can.
Okay, so does it have to be in any specific format, or it just has to be?
Who's in court waiting recently, right now? You? Have you got a court transcript?
No, I just have, my
Here-
indictment and like some stuff I filed.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. Let's just say you go to court 3, 4, 5 times, and then they string it out for a while, and they commit all kinds of felonies against you, and they deprive you of your rights under the color law, and they do all these things. And now, because of what I've said, you recognize that, right? You're not just thinking that you're losers, okay? Because I don't ever want you to think that. These guys are trained professionals, and they like to run over the top of you and set a whole bunch of traps out for you to step in. But now you're going to recognize those and where they're at and how to solve it. And you spot that they are depriving you of your rights under the color law or some other felony, probably about 100 of them. If you really knew the United States Code, you know how many felonies they're actually committing to even find you guilty of a misdemeanor. They're committing hundreds of felonies that carry jail sentences and fines. And they're doing that because they know you don't know. They can do it. They can break the law all they want because they know you don't know. Okay? So, you run into that, you find it. You write a brief. You gather as much evidence as you can. What do I mean by evidence? Maybe you got some first-hand witnesses that went to the courtroom with you. Get their affidavits. You have an audio recording. You have a court transcript you've ordered. Do things like that. I can read a court transcript, and I can show you in every transcript how they've done certain things. If you got a federal case, I can go on PACER. I can look at what documents have been filed in your case by both sides, and I can show you how you've been railroaded, how the judges denied your motions and allowed the prosecutions, how the prosecutor committed violations like Miranda violations, Brady violations, NAPUA violations, and you didn't know any of that crap, right? And they committed all these things against you and railroaded you through the system. When Jamie said she was tried and convicted in federal court, she's going to be sentenced. I said, let me at it. Let me go to PACER. Let me log into your account. Show me every document that's been filed. I want to see the court transcripts. I want to see every document. I'll read them. I logged into her account at 7 p.m. I stayed up all night. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I called her. I said, Jamie, I'm sorry I'm waking you up. I can't wait to call you. You've been railroaded. She goes, really? She goes, yeah, I'm facing a 20-year sentence. I'm going to lose 20 years of my life. I'm a mother and a grandmother. What's that? Okay, quit asking me questions like that. We could go all day on stuff like this. You get it? I'm trying to tell you guys, don't worry too much about stuff. You don't have to worry too much. You really don't. It's really simple. When you boil it down to ridiculously simple, it's really simple. So what I'm saying is, I go through her transcripts, I read everything, I read her court case, and I see how she's been railroaded. I said, we can solve this. I bet you won't spend one day in jail. And she goes, how's that? What do I got to do? I said, well, tomorrow let's call you and fire your attorney. I paid him $27,000 to defend me. And I said, yeah, right, but you lost. You've already been tried, convicted by a jury of your peers. Your lawyer sat on his ass and didn't do nothing. Looking for lightning bolts. Keep reverting back to the basic training here. They're screaming cuss words at me. Anyway, you see what I'm trying to say? First thing we did is fired her attorney. We moved her sentencing back. Well, guess what? When we went to Fidelity.com and we went back into Pacer, we saw that the bid bond, payment bond, and performance bonds dates changed on their maturity date side. Because those were all set upon indictment for her trial date and her sentencing date. It was a predetermined outcome or a conclusion. I changed her sentencing date, the maturity date changed. Court clerk went in there and changed the date. Says, hey, U.S. Treasury, Department of Fiscal Services, you won't have to pay out on August 13th. Let's shoot for September 30th, because that's when I moved her sentencing date. Wow, it just happened to correspond. Isn't that amazing? So anyway, and I said, hey, is there any way you guys can, I know I'm asking a lot, can you rent an apartment or Bend, or is there some way you can get closer to me? Because we're 3 hours apart. And I'm going to need to teach you a whole bunch of stuff, and I can't do it all over the phone. And she says, well, we have a motorhome. My husband and I can get in it. We can come up to Walmart and park in the parking lot. I said, great. Every morning I'll get up early. I'll feed my horses. Every day I'll drive over to Walmart. We'll spend the day in the motorhome. And every night I'll go home and feed. We'll do it all over again. 3 months in Walmart parking lot. 3 months. And I taught her everything I could teach her. Scared the holy living crap out of her is what I did. And she was scared. She's in a federal courthouse by a judge who's the #1 judge in the entire 9th District, which covers several states. And she's already been tried by a jury, convicted and found guilty. You think there's any hope for her? First thing we did is notice of appearance, filed some documents to change her status, standing in her jurisdiction, sent her affidavit of repudiation. We got all that done. And then we filed a couple more documents so that we covered the rule of 3. We let them know what her status, standing in her jurisdiction is, and then I typed up 5 pages. Double spaced, so that she could stand at sentencing and read those 5 pages. And I told her how to get the judge's attention to allow her to do that. I said, you be nice to the judge. You smile. You use those pretty blonde locks of yours and that great smile, and you say this, Judge, this is my life. I may be gone from my husband and my children and my grandchildren for 20 years. I would like to speak, and I'd like to be allowed to read what I wrote. And I'm sitting way in the back of the courtroom, and it's a pretty big court building. And she read those 5 pages, and she did really good, made me really proud. And he threatened her several times with taking a public defender, told the court clerk to bring in the marshals, on and on and on, that he was going to arrest her and put her in jail that day if she didn't take a public defender. And she stood there proudly and said no. He was scaring her to death, threatening her life. And she just said no. And then he looks over at her and he says, Jamie, I only want to know one thing. Is this your beliefs or is this David's? And he points right at me. And I thought to myself, how does he know who I am? I've never been in his courtroom before. I've never met the man. I didn't know any of it. And he knew my first name. And I'm sitting way in the back amongst a group of other people. And Jamie says, this is my beliefs. And then at the very last second, she says, can I talk to David? And the judge said, no. She says, can I talk to my husband? And he says, okay. Her husband's a really nice guy. Ex-Army, nice guy. He's been in jail himself. And he was wrongly convicted. And he was scared to death for his wife. Scared of losing her for 20 years. Being stuck at home with a bunch of kids, grandkids. And he talked her in to going against me and accepting the public defender. At the last second, she was 15 seconds away from freedom. So she took the public defender, and he said, the public defender's office is downstairs around the corner of the building into the building right behind us. Walk in there. We will call them ahead of time. Go meet them right now. Or next Friday when you come back for sentencing, I'm putting you in jail. And I stood up and I go, Judge, where was her intent to commit a crime? He looks at me and he looks at the prosecutor and he goes, I'm not so sure you proved intent on count 1 and count 3. Let's just drop those right now. 2 of her 4 counts disappeared that day. So she took her husband and they walked out. I went and waited out in the park, ate a couple of tacos, and they went into the public defender's office. We all rode up there together, 3.5-hour drive from my house, 6 hours from their house. And she went and talked to the public defender. From that point on, her husband did not want her to fire the public defender. So I had to keep saying, if you don't, you're going to jail. If you don't, you're going to jail. Unless we can prove some major violations, you're going to jail, right? Or can we educate the public defender? Can we bring him over onto our side? Could we teach him the law? So we started firing him off emails about 3 times a day. A little document here, a little document there, a little bit of LAW and jurisdiction and a little bit of the basics, and we just kept hammering him and kept hammering him. And occasionally at first he started saying, oh, that's sovereign citizen bullshit, right? And I just kept firing Supreme Court cases at him and congressional law at him and blah, 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 3 or 4 times a day. At the end of the month, he was on our side. Okay? On our side. He made us one promise. He says, if we win this case, if you don't spend one single day in jail, I'll tear up my bar card. And I said, that's a bet. I'm going to hold you to it. And the next time we went to sentencing, we got another one of the 4 counts removed, and she had 1 left. And on that count, we proved that there not only was there no intent, but there was Brady and Napua violations. And so the judge dismissed the case. She went home. I called the attorney. I said, "Have you ripped it up yet?" I said, "Come work for us." There's lots of good people out there that are innocently convicted, and you've been a party to it. You've been part of the conspiracy to defraud, whether you knew it or not. I don't have any regret. I don't blame you for it, but now you know better. And guess what? He mailed it to us. He put it in the mail and mailed it to Jamie, and she framed it and put it on the wall. His bar card. Yeah. Really cool story. Yeah. British Accreditation Registry. It's a good acronym. Yeah, that's a good acronym.
We couldn't hear that.
Bank Authorized Representative for the Crown Inc. Crown is the first corporation in the world. It was a banking corporation. Okay. All right. We done? You tired? Have I crammed enough into your brain that your brains are jello? Yeah, I would say probably from the looks on some of the faces here. Some people are screaming for more and would like to roll out a sleeping bag and have me talk all night.
On that subject. Anyway, I would like to be able to use this guy as much as he's allowing us to use them for the remainder of the evening, but we have a few administrative things we need to do. Number one, this particular meeting room here is being used for their local assembly tomorrow morning. I'm going to ask to solicit some volunteers. Can you please help me? This has been on us up to this point in time. Now I'm going to have you help put it on you. Upstairs and downstairs, we need to clean it up. There's a trash can around the corner needs to be taken out. There's some trash needs to get taken out of the dumpster. Area needs to be cleaned up so we can get this back spotless like they had it. So I'm going to ask us all to help. And if that's the case, I mean, those of you that need to talk to David in a one-on-one for your personal things, that's between you and David. But the rest of you all, before you head out of here tonight, can you please help out? That's the first request. And the second request, I think that David gave us of his time and energy. I'd like us to give him a big round of applause here and give him thanks for coming and being away from his family and his wife and his children. Thank you, David. Appreciate you. Thank you. We're gonna do this again on October 12th with Carrie Zollman. I will notify you by email and what have you. If you did not give me your email and you did not get it written down, please search me down. I've got a pad over there with I allegedly have all your emails. So we're gonna call this quits for here. When we meet downstairs, I got to close this top part up after we clean it out.